better sleep, sharper focus, a healthier life. It all starts with how you breathe.
Welcome to the No One Told Me, the Airway Health Connection, the Untethered Way, where better breathing meets better living. I'm Dr. Meggie Graham.
I'm Dr. Liz Turner.
We're the co-founders of Untethered Airway Health Center,
on a mission to help you breathe freely and live fully through proactive airway health.
Whether you're a dentist expanding your airway expertise
or a family looking to sleep and breathe easier,
you're in the right place.
Each week, we'll bring you bold insights, real-world stories, and expert tips.
All to help you take control of your airway health. Because when you breathe better, you live better. Let's get started.
Hi, everybody. Okay, I want you to settle in with me. I'm in this very cozy space. I'm in my new warehouse office that I'm going to be hanging out in a lot. So let's chat. I want to tell you something that I really never have said in a full connected breath before. This is the story of how I went from being a general restorative dentist who loved the craft and the art and the precision and the science, the predictability of that world, to becoming someone who could never again look at the mouth or the face without seeing the entire body behind it. I'm someone who eventually realized that my real purpose lives somewhere very different from the original dental path that I started on. I want you to take a breath and settle in. And this is the story of how Untethered was born and why this work absolutely fills me up, is my true passion and life calling. And it does so in a way that restorative dentistry never really could. So when I started out, I really did eventually love restorative dentistry. It took me about 6 months to get my feet wet and find continuing education and really start to love it. I loved fixing things. I loved seeing things through to completion. I loved creating beauty and structure and helping someone feel whole again. And it was something I was really good at and something I cared about. And it made sense for a really long time. But, that's the positive glass half full way of looking at that. There was a lot of negativity that came with being a restorative dentist too. And, we have this myth or perception that people hate to come to the dentist. I don't really think it's a myth. I think that people really have been conditioned to not like coming to the dentist. They don't know the quality of the work. They know if they like you and they know if it hurts, but they have associated us with causing pain, charging a lot of money, putting out fires. And there's a lot of anxiety for patients that then translates to dentists. And so even when our patients trust us and love us and are loyal to us, there is this kind of bracing that I think occurs for a lot of restorative dentists, which is just kind of being on guard, waiting for something negative to happen. And I hate that. But I really, after, being a dentist for 16 years and talking to all my dear friends and colleagues, it's a really common thread amongst general restorative dentists. And there was absolute beauty in what I did. And I fell in love with it and I became really good at it. And I totally committed to doing the highest quality, using the most the best materials, going to all the courses. But slowly things started to feel misaligned. And what I mean by that was, in what I saw in my patients, things were not adding up. I was seeing broken teeth or repetitively failed dentistry when I know that I did everything right. And I know that these patients were taking care of their mouths. They were coming in every 6 months. They truly brushed and flossed. They had clean diets, yet they continued to have problems. And it just wasn't aligning with me. When I was in school, and I'm sure this is true for many dentists out there that are listening to this, that were in their grad programs or their residencies, we were basically taught that a lot of dental need stems from home care and diet. And kind of that's it. And I know that that's a generalization and maybe an oversimplification of it, but that's truly not everything. Yes, of course, diet and home care is really important, but by no means is that the only thing that causes risk. And so despite being really skilled and perfectionistic about what I was doing in the mouth, and despite having patients that were taking really good care of their teeth, I was seeing things fail long before I thought that they should, and patients coming in on repeat, and it just didn't align with what I thought it should be. And along with the adult patients I was seeing kids with wear patterns that like were alarming, like stopping me in my tracks. It felt like I was fixing fires and symptoms without really ever getting to the root cause and not understanding what the root cause was. And I didn't have that language yet. I just had a curiosity mixed with quite a bit of frustration. For me, there was this moment, this aha moment that truly changed everything for me. I hope I never forget it. I was sitting at Spear in a lecture with my now friend and mentor, Dr. Jeff Rouse, and he started connecting occlusal disease and broken teeth and all of these patterns that we see every single day to something he was calling airway dysfunction. And I didn't know what airway dysfunction was. In fact, I was breathing through my mouth at the time and didn't even realize that was a problem. But I remember just freezing for a second and like, wait, come back. What? Because in that moment, I realized that there was a connection to dentistry that I had not been practicing. In fact, I'd never even seen. And really what I had been doing was only a fraction of the big picture. And it was like this room got brighter, like everything I'd been observing clinically, but couldn't explain, suddenly had a place to land. I know that sounds dramatic, but that's what my experience was. And that's how it was for me. So teeth don't just break because patients are unlucky or because someone is stressed or because the dentist sucks. Sometimes they break because something much deeper is breaking down in the body. And that thought took me straight into another continuing education rabbit hole. I've actually joked that it's not a rabbit hole, it's a crater. Jeff opened the door. Then my next step was the Breathe Institute with Dr. Sarush Zagi. There's ASAP Pathway with Tracy and Stacy and Michelle. There's Becca Bacow. All of these people that are now dear friends of mine were really leading the way and telling things in their lectures and their coursework that were helping me connect dots that I didn't know needed to be connected. And with each lecture, with each course, there was more and more research and more case studies that I was just pouring myself into. There were interdisciplinary conversations, and every new thing I learned zoomed me out further. And suddenly the teeth connected for the very first time to the jaw bones, and the jaw bones connected to the face, and the face connected to the airway, and the airway connected to the whole person. And I remember thinking, how did I not see this before? This is so annoyingly simplistic that you can't unsee it. And that was just not the way I was taught, or definitely not the lesson I took away from dental school. But it dawned on me that all of these things were part of what I was doing day in and day out. Whether or not I recognized it, it was part of the patients I was treating. So, this dive into CE took years, not weeks or months. And it was like a slow shift. Even though I had this dramatic aha moment, it wasn't this a moment that I left restorative dentistry. In fact, I didn't leave right away. There wasn't a dramatic leap. It was slow. It was thoughtful. And honestly, it was super uncomfortable. I didn't have a game plan. I didn't have a roadmap, but I just started noticing things with my patients that I'd never been trained to look for. I started looking at tongue posture, lip seal, nasal breathing, swallowing patterns, asking about sleep fragmentation. And it was like I was just being upgraded to full color, like full tuned in vision. And the more that I learned, the more I saw myself in it. This was not just about patients anymore. I was the airway patient. I mentioned before I was mouth breathing. I was a mouth breather. I didn't even know that was a problem. I didn't even know that mouth breathing was unhealthy. I'm realizing that I am the patient in these lectures, and I had suffered for decades and absolutely normalized the exhaustion, the headaches, the extreme attrition and wear, the clenching, the grinding, the anxiety, the broken teeth. And all of this was never on my radar as connected. I thought it was just who I was. Suddenly I had context and it made sense. And once something is personal, it's impossible not to become passionate about it. But that passion deepened when I started to see it in my kids. So let's take my oldest daughter, Penelope. We call her Nellie. And our nursing journey was really tumultuous. It was emotionally hard. It was physically hard. It was confusing. It was painful. I lost my milk supply. She got frustrated trying to get nutrition and milk. She self-weaned really early. I had this devastation and I felt like I had failed her. It was something that I thought would be really easy. And it was such a heavy feeling as a new mom. But in hindsight, now I know the truth. She had an undiagnosed tongue tie that was causing oral myofunctional disorders. Her muscles were compensating constantly, and everything about our experience makes sense now. It shaped her nursing. It shaped her muscle usage, which shaped her development. It shaped her early facial growth. And we spent years supporting her through early intervention orthodontics. And we caught it early by today's standards, but still later than I wish I would have. And that experience changed me. How could it not, right? It changed how I mothered my next two daughters, Ada and Vera. They had completely different journeys because I had the information I needed. I knew that tongue ties are a genetic dominant trait, so I was ready to look for it. I knew that everything was intricately related, and I was prepared with an interdisciplinary team from the moment they were born. And so our journeys with nursing and their facial development because of their muscle usage has been completely different. So, I mean, they nursed beautifully. Ada nursed until after 3 years old, and Vera is turned 3 in September, and she's still nursing. And the difference in their development is so clear. Nothing motivates you more than seeing your child's physiology change with early informed support. So now I'm the patient. I've gone through treatment. I'm feeling better. I'm watching a change in my patients and now my children. So I've got this fire lit underneath me that is not going away. And as all of this is happening, my diagnosis and treatment philosophy, of course, started to shift. So for a long time, I tried to fit airway work into my restorative schedule. I would squeeze airway consults in between restorative work, fillings and crowns. And it always felt like trying to have this deep conversation in the middle of a really busy airport hallway. So as all of this is happening personally, how could my diagnosis and treatment philosophy not shift? So the way I was practicing also was changing. And for a long time, I was fitting this type of philosophy and conversation into my restorative schedule. I would squeeze what should have been longer conversations in between restorative work and hygiene checks. And it added to the stress and the frenzy of our days. But it always felt like I was trying to have this deep conversation in the middle of a busy airport or supermarket. Like there was all this noise and I was trying to rush and it just wasn't sustainable. So I made a dedicated schedule for just having these airway consultations and these airway conversations. If somebody came into hygiene, I would, that I was concerned about, I'd invite them back to a different day. So now I had this like dedicated schedule to just airway patients, and patients were now seeking me out for these kind of conversations based on, their conversations with families and friends. They're like, hey, I think I also have an airway problem. Can you see me? Some of my friends and colleagues were like, hey, I think my patient has an airway problem. Can you see them? And so before I even said it out loud, my calendar was telling me that I had to make some changes. And while that was happening inside of my world, something very similar was happening in another practice. That practice belonged to Liz Turner. Liz was seeing the same patterns at the same time. We didn't even know each other yet. She was asking the same questions. She was going through her own personal journeys. She was feeling the same internal tug towards something bigger. She had a restorative dental practice. She created Bloom Airway and Sleep Dentistry, which was her early version of what was my Untethered. And through a mutual friend, we were introduced. And I swear it took us about 10 minutes once we finally met to look at each other and say, we should do this together. I know that it was actually over many courses and months, but like it felt very obvious and quick. It was such an easy yes for us. We both wanted to do this together. We both loved each other from the get-go. We also wanted support. We were doing it blind and we were making it up as we went as far as how to implement this type of treatment in mass. We both had this calling to build something meaningful, and we both knew airway care needed a bigger footprint than either one of us could do it alone. And so we decided, let's do it together. And that's how Untethered, as it is now, and the company began. Through alignment and through this passion and through this unexpected friendship, through two dentists that saw the same problem at very similar timeframes, and we decided to solve it on their own and realized, hey, let's do it together. So I want to talk to you about why this work is fulfilling at a level that restorative dentistry never reached for me. And this is not because restorative dentistry is not important. It absolutely is. But restorative victories aren't as dramatic. They show up slowly, and they are, a long drawn out process, and not everybody can access big, beautiful casework. A lot of patients can't even do the basic restorative work that we're recommending that they do. But airway wins are really loud. Airway wins change entire families, and sometimes they change them pretty quickly in the matter of days or months, depending on what they might need. So helping an infant feed comfortably for the first time, or helping a child sleep through the night after years of fragmentation and behavioral issues and feeling crappy, helping an adult experience restorative sleep after decades of suffering and running on fumes. These are the kinds of transformations that change the way I saw my career. And I think a lot of people that get into this do. We get hugs, we get letters, we get families telling us they finally feel heard and they finally feel hopeful. And the truth is, it never gets old, not once. It always gives me goosebumps. It always gives me all the feels, and it keeps perpetuating me to go forward. And yes, I've had to grow thicker skin along the way. Airway dentistry is still unfortunately misunderstood. People question it, they dismiss it, they debate it, but the evidence is certainly growing. The case studies keep growing, the outcomes speak loudly, and families tell us the truth. Families are developing this awareness outside and faster than dentists and providers are, and they're demanding and asking for change. So as patients are coming in asking for care and we're seeing something genuinely change lives, it is enough to continue to want to spread that awareness to other dentists, even when the rest of the world and the rest of medicine is a little bit behind us. So one of my favorite parts of this work is now teaching other dentists how to step into this in a way that serves them. For me, it's all in, which is not surprising to anyone that knows me. But for somebody else, it might just be becoming airway aware and how to notice risk factors and bring that to the attention of their patients and help guide them to somebody that can help them. And the reward is in teaching for me too, watching them by other providers. I mean, watching them light up and have their own aha moments, watching burnout lift, watching them add treatment to their practices or build practices that feel aligned and purposeful and deeply connected with their patients. Every time I teach, I see this ripple effect. One dentist becomes hundreds of changed lives. And to me, that is such an honor of a lifetime. So, I actually recently asked Jeff, my original mentor, my friend, have you ever paused and really paid attention to how much change you have created because of the teaching that you're doing? Because I was not his only aha moment, right? So he's out there doing the work that I want to do. I want to help make this become the standard of care and help get it in front of as many people as I can to have as big of an impact as I possibly can. So that's a little condensed version of how I got here. It's how Untethered came to be, not because it was planned and not because I was bored, because my lens changed. And once you see something, you can't unsee it. And once my lens changed, my understanding changed, which changed the way I was showing up as a mom. My own health changed, my philosophy changed, and then my treatment changed. And I kept on following that tug, and I kept on following all of those observations and changes with curiosity. So I want you to take a breath with me through your nose, of course, because now I want to speak directly to the dentists who are listening. If you have felt that little spark while I have been talking, that little sense of recognition, that little question of, could this be the missing piece? If you're even slightly curious, I want you to hear me clearly. You do not need to figure this out alone. Liz and I have built the Untethered way so that dentists could learn this work with support and clarity in community instead of overwhelm on their own. If you're interested in becoming airway aware in a way that is practical and grounded and actually implementable in a general restorative practice, our foundations course is where you should start. That's one of the most common questions I get is, where should I start? Start there. It walks you through diagnosis, physiology, the systems, conversations to have, and how to integrate it into the practice you already have. It makes airway feel doable instead of intimidating. If you want to understand frenectomy work specifically in a way that is thoughtful and interdisciplinary and ethical and truly collaborative, our frenectomy course launches at the end of this year. And we will actually have a hands-on component in March because people are demanding it and asking us for it. And we really think we should do it in a very specific way. So we want to pass on that knowledge. I think that dentists deserve training that is rooted in skill and confidence, not just theory, but also how it relates to us as being restorative dentists. And if you're listening and thinking, I want to do what you do, I want my career to feel that meaningful, I want to build something airway-centered that actually works, then I really want you to listen closely right now, because in 2026, we are expanding Untethered by partnering with dentists who want to bring this model to their communities. So we will be giving out information about that very shortly in the next couple of months. And so dentists that want to join us on this journey will have a path to do so. It's really exciting and fun, and it's happening. It feels like it's happening without me. It's just, it's so big and it's awesome. If you're feeling that nudge right now, trust it and come join us, learn with us, grow with us, ask questions, step into this work with the support that you deserve and the clarity you need, because what an awesome opportunity that we have because we're dentists, because we have access to truly changing lives. Like, it's just unbelievable. There's so many different ways that you can become part of our Untethered community in a way that transforms not only your career, but truly in your patients' lives. We would love to walk this journey with you. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being with me here today in my warehouse space. And I look forward to talking more with you. If you want more information, check out our educational website, theuntetheredway.com. Have a wonderful day and pay attention to how you're breathing.
Thanks for tuning in to the Untethered Airway podcast.
If today's episode helped you see things differently,
Please share it with someone who would benefit from hearing this. And don't forget to subscribe.
want to learn more about airway health or connect with our team?
Please visit our website, untetheredairwayhealthcenter.com, or follow us on Instagram @Untethered Airway.
Until next time, bye.